Peace, Natalie. How you doing?
Good. How are you? What's the background? What's the
Hold on
noise?
one second. This Bart is super loud.
Hey, Kingdom.
Hey,
Peace, peace.
hey,
Yes.
Valerie.
What's up, fam?
God. What's
Yeah.
up, brother?
What's up with it?
Oh, nothing. Chilling. Thought I was late to the party.
Nah, man. You always right on time, brother. Thank you for coming through. Um, Today is March 15th, and we are reading pages 85 to 90 in Collective Courage. Um, and I'm gonna start off with some Jackson Rising. Um, yeah. I also want to say congratulations to Shiara. She's having her baby today. So Mama Mia and the whole fam is focused on that today. So we got a few members not here today, but it's all good. Um, yeah. So I wanted to start with this page right here in Jackson Rising, building a local solidarity economy. The critical third pillar of the Jackson Plan is the long-term commitment to build a local solidarity economy that links with regional and national solidarity economy networks to advance the struggle of for economic democracy. Solidarity economy as a concept describes a process of promoting cooperative economics that promote solidarity economy, mutual aid, reciprocity, and generosity. It also describes a horizontal and autonomously driven networking of a range of cooperative institutions that support and promote the aforementioned values, ranging from worker cooperatives to informal affinity-based neighborhood bartering networks. So we're talking about, cooperatives coming together and working on specific things that they are aligned on um, to continue a prosperous economy for everybody. So buying locally is kind of like one of those things. Like if businesses that are in the same area buy from each other, then the dollar is circulating. Our conception of solidarity economy is inspired by the Mondragon Corporation, a federation of mostly worker cooperatives and consumer cooperatives, and based in the Basque region of Spain, but also draws from the best practices and experiences of the solidarity economy and other alternative economic initiatives already in motion in Latin America and the United States. Right, so Mondragon is a big inspiration for a lot of cooperatives. They're mentioned in both books, both Jackson Rising and Collective Courage. We are working to make these practices and experiences relevant in Jackson and to facilitate greater links with existing cooperative institutions in the state and elsewhere that help broaden their reach and impact on the local and regional economy. The solidarity economy practices and institutions that MXDM is working to build in Jackson include building a network of cooperative and mutually reinforcing enterprises and institutions, specifically worker, consumer, and housing cooperatives and community development credit unions as the foundation of our local solidarity economy. Um, Building sustainable green redevelopment and green economy networks, building a network of local urban farms, developing local community and conservation land trusts, organizing to reconstruct and extend the public sector, particularly public finance of community development to be pursued as a means of rebuilding the public sector to ensure that there is adequate infrastructure to provide quality health care, accessible mass transportation, and decent, affordable housing. Yeah, so again, I just love Jackson Rising because they get very specific about the things that they want to do. You know, the the public sector. They're really caring about public transportation and community development, land trusts, protecting the land, developing urban farms, and supporting each other. So these are the things that are the basis for a solidarity economy, right? Is just understanding what each person needs, each organization needs, and configuring ways, needs, and what do they value, uh, figuring out ways to reach that, you know. And I feel like these are good starting points because we all need to conserve the land. That's something that we all should have some kind of awareness of, even being such city dwellers, right? You know, I feel like in the Bay we have access to nature and stuff, probably more than other areas. But you know, we should not take that for granted, and you know, all do our part to give back and not just rely on the city, right? But then also um, developing urban farms so there's less food insecurity. Like these could be implemented in our communities now, and I think will make a big impact. So, 85 to 90, chapter 4, strategy, advocacy, and practice. Um, I'll start off, and then who wants to go next after me? So I could just call on you when it's time. Anybody, any takers? It's all good. Let me know if you want to jump in. We believe that the most important single factor in our progress in Gary so far has been our educational program. We realized from the beginning that if a cooperative business was going to help our people in a large way, they must study its fundamental philosophy, ideals, and history, right? So that's the importance of Black history right there. Like going back and understanding what happened so you can go forward and fortify yourself against those things that were hard to get over in the past, and also replicate and not recreate the wheel for the wins that were achieved. In our conviction that we must be trained before trying to lead people. Wait, excuse me. It is our conviction that we must be trained before trying to lead people. So that's George Schuler. Um, that's a very small but profound statement. You know, it's competent leadership. We are on page 45. I'm sorry, 85. Um, yeah, 85, chapter 4. Um, so I highly respect that statement. I know that if we, I know for me, that's something I hold to heart. I definitely never want to be in a leadership position and be inept, you know. And I know sometimes we are thrust into leadership um, unexpectedly just because somebody has to step up sometimes. But I think it should be a goal to always aim to be as knowledgeable about who you're leading as possible. And so I think these two quotes are important because the title is advocacy, strategy, and practice, right? So strategy is not fly by night. It's not something you come up with on the spot necessarily. It's something that is planned and thought out and worked through for faults and you know where things could go wrong. Advocacy, that's an intentional thing, you know, like to advocate for someone isn't necessarily something that you do without thinking, you know, and practice is also something that's intentional. So these are things that require intention and also some form of knowledge base. Let's keep going. Every African American owned cooperative of the past that I have researched, and almost every contemporary cooperative I have studied, began as the result of a study group or depending on propulsive training and orientation of members. The Consumers Cooperative Trading Company is one of the best examples in the United States of the importance of education and training and the use of study circles, but it is not unique. Education was and continues to be an essential element of the development and access of the cooperatives that form the Mondragon Cooperative Corporation in Spain. For example, the very first activity related to the founding of the Mondragon Cooperative was the establishment of the community-based Polytechnic High School in the 1950s, organized by Jose Maria Arizmendiarita. uh, Today, several education institutions are members of the MCC, among the University Mondragon. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not being able to spell that or say that. Uh, According to the Mondragon website, training both academic and that link to professional refresher courses. Um, where were we? Refresher courses has always played a key role in the development of cooperation, and and constitutes one of our identifying characteristics. Today, MCC has a wide-reaching educational network, which includes a number of vocational training centers. Right. So we gotta bring that back. How do we bring people into competency in our neighborhoods for skills that are relevant to our society? You know, building things, cooking things. You know, how do we have better? How do we create better passageways into these fields? Du Bois' concept of intelligent cooperation and intelligent democratic control and economic leaders and institutions depend heavily on public information and member education and training, right? So it's like the voting process in general is something that I think politicians depend on our ignorance a lot of the time, right? They depend on folks voting off of name recognition, voting off of, maybe one or two key things that they may say in their speeches. Um, but how do we know? Like, you really have to understand the nuances of politics because it's easy to get sucked into the extremes of Republicans and Democrats when there's pros and cons to both. And really, it takes a certain understanding of how those pros and cons come into play. And I think in general, they kind of bet on most Americans just kind of going off of their chosen side. So that's an example of not being educated and participating in a process that affects your life. If you're voting just for recognizing someone's face, you could be issuing in someone who's not a quality leader. Paula says Zapatista night schools. Els and self taught themselves to read as well as cooperate. Oh, okay. I'm not familiar with that, but I will be researching that. Thank you. See, and that's what this is for, trading knowledge, so we can build a better foundation, so we can relate to each other. Thank you for that, Paula. All right, let's keep going. Continuous education is one of the international principles of cooperation and an important strategy for cooperative economic development and business success. The success and growth of many cooperatives appear to depend on education strategies, orientation, and training about both what it means to be a good co op member and how to operate in and manage a particular business. Future co op business development also depends on reaching young people with knowledge about alternative economic structures and cooperative economics as well as experiences with entrepreneurship. You gotta expose, right? You gotta be able to see what it's like first before you can really understand what it is. So that's, shout out to Brother Tut in the work-based learning program. We are providing entryways into collective work by exposing them to the concepts in the book, but also interning with other collectives and cooperatives. So it's such profound work that we're doing, and I appreciate you, brother, for holding that down. All right, let's keep going. In this chapter, I explore education as a cooperative resource, particularly in worker-owned cooperatives, and delineate a variety of education strategies used. We then begin the story of African American cooperation in the 20th century with Du Bois's attempt to organize a cooperative education and development program through the Negro Cooperative Guild, in addition to its efforts to promote cooperative development in the pages of the crisis. Okay, guys. Anybody else want to pick it up under models of cooperative business education? I can keep going all day. All right.
Yeah, I got you, brother. What page, brother?
86 at the bottom, models of cooperative business education.
Okay, got it. So it says human capital is traditionally viewed as a factor of labor in terms of measuring and representing labor's credentials and skills. It is usually what labor brings with it. The study of working conditions in cooperatives suggests that cooperatives also develop and generate human and social capital. It is not just what is bought on the job. On the job training and specific industry skills, business planning and accounting, strategic planning, and skills of democratic participation are developed within the cooperative business, like Brother Oz just touched on. When you're working in a cooperative, you're not just learning how to make a wage, you're learning how to be productive in a team environment. You're learning how to balance a checkbook. You're learning how to do order forms. You're learning a whole lot of other skills that can be transitioned to other careers or jobs outside of that cooperative. So it's very supportive in that aspect, as well as developing your social skills. All right. They also touch on teamwork, meeting facilitation, leadership. And these are some of the points that we highlight in the curriculum of the work-based learning program, where each participant chooses a section of the curriculum, and we hit it hard. You know, they have assignments and they actually apply it in real life. This isn't just this is a book club, but we applied what we asked. I know Brother Aj asks a lot, that we apply what we go over and what we learn in the real life. And we do that also in the work-based learning program. As we continue, speed up a little bit. So when you get, they said you learn about, different factors of production and outcomes of association, and they become endogenous, okay? I don't know what that means. Somebody can look that up. ENDOGENOUS, endogenous. And social capital is developed in the process of operating a cooperative. Cooperatives require trust and solidarity. That's another word. Wish we had time to look that one up. I get the gist of that word, but I wish we could look up the definition. And at the same time, create trust and solidarity in the process of developing and maintaining the co-op. Trust and solidarity, while often necessary to make the association work, also become products or outputs of a cooperative enterprise. There is anecdotal information about this, right? In addition, Haynes, 1993 and 94, coins the term social energy to capture the non-traditional collective efforts, expertise, and time put in by co-op members to make the business work and to connect it to the profitability of the cooperative. He observed that the boys had a similar notion that social engagement is an economic resource and cooperative economic endeavors, both an input and an output. More research and documentation on these processes and outcomes are needed. This is kind of dope. If we can kind of pick up some of that research, the definition of learn, pronounce, anecdotal. Okay, yeah, that's what's up. So like in the same, breath, on the job, to learn as we do, to grow, as we continue to know through participation and observation. And they also coined, Professor Jessica Gordon-Nimhart says that more research and documentation of these processes and outcomes are needed. Very true. So if we can just look at our last year's cohort and what they went off to do in this year's cohort, we're gonna try to do that with the work-based learning program. We're gonna try to keep the stats up to show what what people learned, and we did do a community listening session this year where we did a lot of the feedback about what was learned, what everybody talked about they took away from the program. And then we'll be able to watch people growth and development in the community. So, I'll pass it back to you, Brother Aj, at study circles, and I'll end it saying that we will continue to do this research, that we do see that, they're right on about this. And, it's prevalent even in the work-based learning program. And folks are here that can chime in on that as well in the program. It's back on you, brother. I can't hear you, brother.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, I was just reading the definition. So anecdotal is not necessarily true or reliable because it's based on personal accounts rather than facts or research. So your personal experience, that's anecdotal. And then endogenous is the expected rate, the having an internal cause or origin, right? So the sentence they use is the expected rate of infection is endogenous to the system. Um, so I guess it's usually used in like the sciences, um, and in this case, what they're saying is teamwork, meeting facilitation, leaderships, and network are also factors of production and outcomes of the association. They become endogenous to social capital is developed uh, in the process of operating a cooperative. So it's like they go together, is what it sounds like, you know? And so, yeah, this book has definitely always put me up on game on new words and new vocab. Study circles. Study groups were formed to discuss economic problems and learn cooperative economics. The philosophy behind study groups for cooperative business development is best articulated in a summary of the philosophy of the antagonist cooperative movement by Miles W. Connor, who was principal of the Copen Normal School in Baltimore. Let me see. Um, Maryland. According to O'Connor, Dr. Moses M. Cody, the director of the Extension Department of St. Francis Xavier University in Antigonish, Nova Scotia, declared that the cooperative movement was an adult education project in which the people are made aware of their problems and through study and discussion enabled to reach a possible solution of the same. According to Connor, Cody further explained that all cooperative enterprises were an outgrowth of months and sometimes years of study of a vital problem. Right, so it's not right away. It takes time and intention, right? Strategy, advocacy, and practice. People through their studies clubs become intelligent in each phase of the new enterprise and are thus able to operate with a degree of ease and understanding that practically assures success. Studying how cooperative business enterprises work, how they solve economic problems in unconventional ways is essential to the development and process. Educational practices used by cooperative enterprises. So they did study circles, curriculum development, pertaining orientation, pre-training and orientation, in-service training, networking, conference development, leadership development, public education. So these are all formats that we could choose from. I mean, we're doing study circles right now. Um, I had to develop some sort of curriculum for this. Pre-training and orientation, that's I guess that's something that can be used as like a introduction to whatever the industry is that you're trying to get into. Networking and conference development, you got to learn how to talk to people. You got to learn how to get in people's space and feel the energy out and understand what people's problems are and personalities. Like that's a part of anything you're doing. Like whether it's entrepreneurial or trying to get a job, you got to talk to people. You got to network. Leadership development, that's key because somebody has to take the lead. Somebody has to to lead the way. And then public education, so letting folks outside of the organization know, catching them up to speed about what's going on in your industry, so folks might be prompted to support you more. As early as 1918, black activist groups in urban areas were forming study circles to discuss economic problems and learn about cooperative economics. Remember that there was cooperative activity among African Americans in rural areas in the 1800s. The 20th century saw co-ops develop in cities as well and ushered in a strong cooperative education movement. As we saw in this previous chapter, for example, Citizens Cooperative Stores in Memphis started with a study group in 1918 after its leader attended W.E.B. Du Bois' meeting of the Negro Cooperative Guild. The intent of the meeting was to induce individuals and groups to study consumers' cooperation and to promote the cooperation among African Americans. Skip down a little bit. The first year of the Young Negroes Cooperative League, 1930, was devoted to the study of history, principles, and methods of Rochdale consumer cooperation. The YMCA believed that leaders must be well educated and informed. And in this case, the subject was economics and consumer cooperation. The YNCL provided reading lists for members, sent out newsletters, held conferences, and promoted a 5-year plan that included study and discussion of cooperative economics. In, in addition, the YNCL planned a national tour where Executive Director Ella Baker would spend 2 days in each community, study its economic problems, introduce the concept of consumers cooperation, provide examples of communities that had developed co-ops and organized new YNCL councils. Part of the purpose of the tour, in addition to educating people about cooperatives, advertising the YNCL and establishing councils, was to act as an antidote to some of the hopelessness that the black community felt in the 1930s, right? So that points to the um, cooperatives can be economic as well as cultural. So they did all of these things, but they also had a cultural intention of raising the morale of their people and bringing a little bit of hope to people's minds, and that does a lot. You know, hopelessness is a stealer of motivation. So it's hard to get any meaningful work done if you're in hopelessness, if you're in survival, if you're in, you know, and you just keep taking losses. And imagine at this time, you know, this was during the depression, but also imagine just all of the losses that we had taken as a people with violence and just not really being seen as equal. Like that comes with, so you have to be so strong to still be optimistic, you know. So I can imagine like the amount of work that it took to charge up the batteries of the people. So we're gonna stop right there, y'all. We are just about done anyway. So I appreciate everybody listening. Like, remember those 6 ways of building, you know, practices to build camaraderie and education and establish a knowledge base. You know, study circles, curriculum development, pre-training and education, in-service training, networking and conference development, leadership development, public education. You know, these are all ways that we can assist ourselves in growing to be more involved into building our knowledge base and sharing that knowledge with others. So, yeah. Any last words from my people?
I just like how at that point they were kind of really breaking down and using the language of science and systems, like how you said that the word not integrator, I gotta look what it was. But I was reading and didn't know the words, but I didn't go back and look them up though. But looking at them and knowing the definition of them, it's like, oh, okay, they were speaking of it as a system and a science, even though they were trying to bring that idea to you. Like if you start a good structure or something like that, then it's down to a system or a science. So that it's the language goes between that and business language.
Yeah. Yes. It is business language. It is community building language. It's a mixture of things that they're pulling in, right? The cultural and the economic. I think that's the marriage right there is cultural aspect of working together that is impactful and has spiritual implications. I feel because you know if you have values that you are able to input into multiple areas of your culture, I think it has a morality boost. You know, and so yeah, I agree with what you're saying, brother. Um, Anybody else? All right, y'all.
If
Thank
no
you.
one else has a word, I have. If you're not familiar with the Zapatistas, it's an area in rural Mexico. It's autonomous, and the comrades out there, won their autonomy through both force and cooperation. And I'm really inspired by the work they did because a lot of the people organizing were women who, before they organized, were hugely oppressed in the workplace. Didn't A lot of them didn't know how to read or write. Um, And through cooperation, organizing, and taking back their power and building that power, they've been able to create this amazing, autonomy that's been recognized by the Mexican government. Really inspiring for me.
It is very inspiring, and I will look into it. I'm sure there's a lot to learn from them. Thank you for bringing that to our cipher, Paula. Yes. Peace and love. We'll catch y'all the same black time, same black channel. Let's get it. Have a great day.
Adios. Bye, everyone.
Peace.